Hi, I'm Cathy Moak with the University of Texas at Austin Gear Up program. I get asked a lot, what is CHAMPS? So I want to give you guys a simple understanding of it, though it's not going to be a complete, total understanding. You need to go to a CHAMPS workshop for that. But CHAMPS is basically this. It's a framework, so we have a common system to use with our students. So they have a clear and consistent understanding of the expectations for their behavior in different activities, both in the classroom and throughout the school. So CHAMPS was developed by Randy Sprick. He works with safe and civil schools. He's great. If you ever get a chance to go to a training with him, I would encourage you to do that. A lot of people see CHAMPS at the elementary level, but Sprick has actually put out a book called Discipline in the Secondary Classroom, and it's CHAMPS at the secondary level. So they're both great books. They both have tools that teachers can use to implement strategies, and they have several other tools that you can use in the classroom. So while CHAMPS has a consistent language and standardized expectations, it's really intended for teachers to make clear the expectations in their individual classrooms. So it's going to be different in each classroom that you go to. So the acronym CHAMPS basically means for every activity, lab activities, cooperative groups, independent work, group work, teacher-directed instruction, tests, no matter what the students are doing, they need to know these things. So the first one is C. C is conversation. So can you talk to other students? How loud, how long, and to whom? H is help. How can I get help? How can I get questions answered? How do I get the teacher's attention and access to the teacher? Do I raise my hand? Do I have some other system? A is activity. What is the activity itself? So when are these expectations used? How do I complete this assignment? For example, an activity would be a warm-up. M is movement. Can I get out of my seat? Can I sharpen my pencil? Can I go to the bathroom? How do I turn things in? And so on. P is participation. So what should active participation look like? What should it sound like? What does it not look like? Great non-examples are helpful there. And S is, well, if you do all the things above, you will have success. It's just success. People always say, what's S? It's just success. It's not really a component that will vary in your CHAMPS. You just want to be successful. So let's get into some of the detail of CHAMPS. So the first component is conversation. It is very important to teach conversation levels. If you have ever had a friend that does not know how to whisper, then you understand what I'm talking about. So let's look at the different levels of conversation that you would teach your students. You may change these to meet your needs. It's kind of up to you, but whatever you choose and your needs are for your classroom and probably your school. So 0 is silence. It should rarely be used because it's very hard to enforce. I always tell people, don't use 0 for the warm-up activity. What if a kid has a question and you want them to ask another kid because you're taking attendance or you're standing at the door greeting kids as they come in? So 0 is more for things like standardized tests or even classroom tests where there needs to be complete silence. So be careful how you use 0. 1 is usually a better option. Build in some flexibility for yourself. So 1 is whisper. So at home, I know it's awkward, but I want you to try. You'd put 2 fingers over your voice box, and I want you to whisper your name. So I would say, Cathy. Now say your name out loud, Cathy. do you notice that it doesn't vibrate when you whisper, but it does vibrate when you say your name out loud? So that is a voice level 1. It's whisper without vibration. Now, level 2 is soft conversation. So you would use level 2 to talk to a shoulder partner or to ask your neighbor or group at your table a question. So one person. So this level, the students around you should not be able to hear what you say to one person. That's soft conversation. And you'd practice it with your students. So 3 is small group conversation. So this is the level you would use in a cooperative group. It's similar to the conversation you would have in a huddle. You want everyone in the group to hear, but you do not want the other groups to overhear. So it has to be soft enough. So you can practice that in your groups. 4 is large group conversation. So this does not mean we're screaming and it's mayhem. It's the level of conversation you would use if you're speaking to the whole group, like a presenter. So the participants in the back can hear you louder for the people in the back. We've all heard that. All right, 5 is your outside voice. This is the level you would use at a pep rally or a football game, but never in the classroom. All right, so the next piece we want to look at is how students can get help. So students need to know how to get help without disrupting the teacher, but be able to meet their needs. So there are several strategies that work well, and each teacher needs to pick the best one for their classroom. One caution I would give you would be having students raise their hands for help. So think about how you raise your hand for help or to get permission to speak. So maybe in a faculty meeting, and act it out now. So let's say you raise your hand and you don't get called on because they're helping someone else or talking to someone else. The hand that you raise is almost always your primary hand, the hand you would use to write. Most of us do that. Now that's not 100%, but it's pretty close. But you'll also notice students do this a lot. So after they raise their primary hand, they start to get tired. And so instead of putting their hand down, they use their other hand to prop it up. So now we have 2 hands locked into this system and no hands are working on the work. So we don't want kids to stop working. So maybe another strategy would work better. It really depends on the kind of classroom you have too. So math teachers, you get this more than probably anyone else because a lot of times kids are raising their hands, asking for help or just need help in general. So here's a strategy that I like. So one is to have a help card. So you could just use some cardstock, fold it in half and have the student write help please, and they can put that up for you to see. So whenever you're scanning the classroom, you can see the help cards that are up. You can even give them eye contact and say, I got you. I see you need help, and I'll be there soon. Keep working. Another system are these 3 cards. So you have students at all times put their cards where they are. So you say, hey, if you're all good, put out your all good card. If you think you might need some help, put out your yellow card. And if you really need help, put out your red card and I'll get to you as soon as I can. So the most important thing is to make sure the students keep working and that you are able to lessen disruptions while having a system to help. All right, so activity. So basically the activity is just a description of what's taking place when this version of CHAMPS is being used. For example, teacher-directed instruction, independent seat work, class discussions, cooperative group work, opening or attendance routine, small group discussion. There's several. So you're going to create a CHAMPS for each of these. So you don't have one CHAMPS running your classroom all day. You have several for each activity you're going to do. So your students know what to expect when you transition to that activity, and it allows you to have more activities, right? If you're stuck with one set of rules, you're very limited in what you can do. All right, so movement is an important consideration, and where many teachers create loopholes in their structure. For example, if the movement requirement is to sit in your seat, then the students would not be able to get up and turn in work unless they ask permission. So you want to make sure you clarify where they could move. So your movement during the warm-up could be to turn in your assignment. That could be the only movement that you allow, or to sharpen your pencil. Might be a good time since it's the beginning of the class period. So just be really specific in your expectations and don't create a loophole so you can't enforce it. If you do accidentally create a loophole, you're the teacher. You can change it anytime you want. Feel free to do that. All right, participation. So participation is this: what student behaviors will show that students are active and responsible participants in the activity. So for example, if you're using the strategies from the first 3 minutes that you learned earlier in our training, if your students are working on the warm-up, they will complete the warm-up on their warm-up sheets before the timer expires and signal the teacher for a stamp. That would be the description of the participation. A non-example you would give them would be to start the warm-up late and not signal the teacher. So you want to give them examples and non-examples for participation so they know exactly what it means. Again, the whole point of CHAMPS is so students know the expectations in the classroom. All right. If you want CHAMPS to be successful, you have to use it often and consistently. In fact, if you want any behavior management strategy to work, you have to use it often and consistently. So if you find it's not working well, you need to check your motivation equation. Do I have expectancy and value? If not, where can I add it? Can I use beat the teacher? Can I increase positive reinforcement? Am I fluently correcting behavior? What do I need to do to ensure I am consistent? If it's not working, it's likely because you're not being consistent, or you don't have the motivation in place, the expectancy, and the value. All right, so speaking of motivation, your CHAMPS expectations are not your rules. They're your framework for each activity. They work together with your rules to manage your classroom. For example, if your rule is speak and move only with permission. If you're at a voice level 1, then students can whisper, but they must have permission to move beyond a voice level 1, if that makes sense. So if your movement is stay in your seat, then the student could ask permission to go to the bathroom. That's how you manage with rules and with CHAMPS. They're not the same thing, but they work together. Your rules run your CHAMPS, if that makes sense. All right. So CHAMPS works with your rules. When you use CHAMPS with your other strategies in move behavior management, motivation, consistency, it's all going to lead to a well-managed classroom.